Have you seen that one before, Nikki?
No, this is all new and I'm blown.
Ah, it's a great one. Yeah, we like that one.
I thought that it was so interesting because when we started, the conversation was about databases for marketing campaigns and customer information on facts. But now it got really sophisticated. So
yeah, actually, we're doing a project for a huge US bank right now, and it's on churn prediction. We still do some of that stuff, right? Where they want to know, they have a process called terminals into shops. Some of them are massive shops, some of them massive retail outlets, ones we've all heard of, and others are mom and pop stores, right? And what happens is they take a lot of investment to put all that hardware into a store. They sign a contract, they put the hardware in the store, but they actually only ever make any money if anyone transacts on their machines, right? It's a transaction-based business. And they find like 40% of people that sign contracts never transact. They just never unplug the hardware and replug the hardware, and they can't bother to do the training. They signed it for the $500 incentive or whatever it was, but they never then actually used the machine. And what they wanted to do was, is there any indication in our data at an extreme, remember, this is an extremely early process, not talking about a customer that's been with them for 2 years. We're talking about a customer that's never transacted with them. Are there any indications of any sort through in that early process that will tell us whether this customer is going to transact or not? And here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting question on that one. I wasn't going to talk about this one, but now you mention it. Is, yeah, we can. So we always said, I talk about the process before. Two critical parts of that process during discovery is we set two hypotheses during the early stages of an AI project. One is the technical hypothesis, and one is the commercial or business hypothesis, right? And if you can't answer yes to both of them, you haven't got a project, right? So on that one, the answer to the question is, can you tell us who's going to transact and who isn't? The answer is looking, and we're in the discovery right now, is looking highly likely to be yes, right? Good accuracy. We can tell you who's going to transact and who's not. The question is, are you going to do anything about it or not? Can you do anything about it or not? Have you got anything in your kit bag knowing the answer of whether these people are going to transact or these companies are going to transact or not? Is there anything you can do about it? Because if there's nothing you can do about it, or you're not willing to change or do anything about it, it's a technical exercise. I can give you the answer, but if you're not going to do anything about it, you're not going to extract any value. So you have to answer both questions, right? So they're going away with the process, the question now of, I'll tell you yes or no, these guys aren't going to transact, but what are you going to do about it? Otherwise, let's not go to production, right? Otherwise, let's not go to production, because you're not going to take any commercial value out of the answer. So we still do a lot of those pieces as well. This one's in production. This one's working. This is a company, I can name it. We're working with Metel. They're a big partner of ours, New York-based telco, fantastic company, doing really, really well. And they sell a lot of different products, network services, mobile, wide-ranging comms company for enterprise. But a big product that they sell is SD-WAN. And before I go into this, I fired on without asking if there was any other questions. Any other questions that people want to ask?
No, not from my end. I'm not sure how you guys are about the timing. And
yeah, I can stop now if you want me to stop. This is just another example.
I love your cases, so I don't want to stop you. I know that Johan is into autonomous, and you mentioned that there's something that you can talk about that space that could be relatable for Johan. Otherwise, I totally leave it up to you and your timing. I could listen to you forever. I love these cases.
I don't know if you could listen to me forever, but yeah, okay. I'm pretty proud of our cases. But I can stop. I mean, we've got hundreds of cases. This is another one, totally different area on managing ticket next best action. This was the process I showed you before. Basically, I'll give you the overview of what this does without going into detail. It makes the best SD-WAN service operator that Metel's ever had or ever will have. And it knows what the next action to resolve a ticket will be, and automates the process to make that happen. And they were having a huge problem because they're growing. Remember that graph I showed you? They're growing like this, and they have to recruit off the street. And two problems they have: they can't find the people, and secondly, every time they recruit, they dilute their experience, and their quality in their service gets worse. So we automated it. We automated the decisions that are an experience, because they've got historic tickets going back 5 years. We know right? If we train an AI with all the unstructured data and the structured features of that ticket, we know with high levels of accuracy what the next action is for that ticket. So why don't we just do it and make it happen? And so that's what we did. And we created the best service agent that Mettel's ever seen or ever will have for 75% of their tickets. Let me say that, not for 100%, because some of them were just too hard and there wasn't enough examples. But for 75% of their tickets, we know what the next action is. So we just tell the people, this is the next action. We can't go fix it, right? Can't do a truck roll. We can't fix hardware on a customer's premises, but we can fire the process off to go and do the truck roll and go and do that. It doesn't have to sit, because what was happening was, from a capacity perspective, their response times were getting bigger and bigger because their tickets were just sitting. And we can all do the maths. If you've got a capacity problem, you're just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse over time, right? Because you can't keep up with the volume that's coming in. So that's what we did for Mettel. That's a quick run through. I won't go through the whole case, but a big NLP, model stacking in NLP. So we used NLP over the logs to put some structure around what the logs were telling us, and we used the features, and then we model stacked in order to get the result.
Marcus.
Chris, just listen to the way in which you are manipulating, handling information and data, and then working out what to do with it so that we get a definable action and a result. You must be aghast at the semi-amateurish way in which we appear to be dealing with the single most important event facing us at the moment in terms of coronavirus, and the second most important action, which is in respect of climatic change. But knowing what you know.
Everybody knows it, though. It's not just us, right? So I'll give you a personal opinion now. This is fully personal because it starts to get political, right? Everyone knows the answer, right? Everyone knows the answer to climate change. They just don't like the answer, right? Everybody knows the answer to COVID, but it has huge implications. And that's not fair to say they don't like the answer. That's really simplifying it. So the answer to if you want to solve one problem, you want to solve climate change, we all know what we have to do, right? Stop getting on airplanes, stop burning fossil fuel. We all know what we have to do, right? But the impact of doing that will be catastrophic for certain people, right? So we talk about it as economics, it'll be catastrophic economically, but what catastrophic economically means is catastrophic for some people sitting at home with no money to feed their kids, right? So it's a very hard problem. And COVID's the same. We know what we have to do with COVID. We have to stay home for a month or two, not go out the house, buy enough food for a month, and just stay there, right? I'm not a medical, so I may be completely wrong, but there's something, we've got to do something extreme if you want to solve this really rapidly. But the side effects of the drug, I guess, right? If it was a drug, the side effects of that drug are going to be catastrophic for people around the world, putting them into poverty, putting them into situations where they haven't got healthcare or they haven't got economic capability to survive, and maybe more people will die. It's a very hard problem. I think we know the data tells you what you want. It's like AI. It tells you if you want to solve this laser focused problem, this is what you should do, right? But if you solve this problem in that way, is it going to have catastrophic impacts over here? I've got another related story that I don't know, guys, if you want to just drop and go, just go, right? Because I'll talk forever. But we did a project for a very, very, very large pharmaceutical in the US. Actually, they've just been bought by an even larger pharmaceutical, believe it or not. They just merged. Well, actually, no, they got bought. And we started on our journey with these guys, and their question was, can you tell us they do 2 cancer drugs, right? Two very prevalent world-class cancer drugs. And they said, can you tell us during this process, they have a very, very long, complex process of who's the right candidate for this drug. So I think there's a lot of different drugs on the market. I'm, again, no expert, and there's a very big process of who's the right person for this drug. And actually, this goes back to churn, Nikki. They said, can you help me understand where we should apply our focus and who we should should focus on? Who are the best candidates for our drug? And can you do it early? Really what they're asking us is who's going to churn out of their process. Now, so we go down the process, and it's getting better, but one of the only ways to validate and retrain an AI, a machine learning, I'm not talking about unsupervised, but a supervised learning machine learning model, right, is to create a control group, right, which says, well, we'll do nothing and see what happens, right? So if I take this back to telco, and we do this with telco, or the example I just did with the US bank on transacting on credit cards, telco comes and says, can you tell me the candidates that are going to leave my network, right, called churn? And we go, yeah, probably, right? So we have a go, blah, 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 blah. Well, actually we say, don't know, and then we say, yeah, probably after the discovery. And they say, well, you told me these 100 people these are the top 100 people that are going to leave my network. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know how accurate your machine is? All right, do nothing. See what happens. Oh, 90 of them left. All right, we're 90% accurate, right? And that's how you validate a model. That's how you validate a machine. I take that back to the drug example where we were working with this company and said, right, can you make us a churn? Yeah, we probably can, right? I can tell you who isn't going to be accurate, right? And you say, well, how do I know you're going to be truthful? Well, do nothing with these guys. Well, hold on. So you think you've got the best cancer drug in the world for these people, and we think we've got the best prediction. You have to go in assuming you're the best of the best, right? And I think I've got the best prediction tool. And what we're going to do is take some people and not take the best course of action we could take in order to save their life. Because we need them as a control group. I don't care if somebody leaves their mobile phone network, quite frankly, but I do care if people die, right? So no, we're not going to take that. And it's hard for a small business like ours, but we're only 180 people, huge project, multi-million-dollar project. And we just said, no, we're not doing it. We cannot do that. It's just not possible for us to walk down that path. And this is where you get to some of the edges of, so I talked about big headlines on AI about taking people's jobs. Actually, that's not true. Automation is a big factor in removing the need for more jobs, right? AI is the conversation on AI is a much more moralistic conversation we should be having. It's a much more complex conversation we should be having about AI and where to apply it and where not to apply it and how comfortable we are, right? Because I don't know if there's a intelligence in a parallel world, would they have taken that project? And no one would be any the wiser. No one would know, right? And you could argue, well, we didn't do anything. This was the course of action that's going to happen for everyone. We just created a two-tier field, and we just weren't. We couldn't settle with our comfort levels on that, and so we didn't take the project. We actually worked with them on a totally different project actually in the end, which was about predicting whether they would dispense or not post the fact, but it had no impact on how they would treat that patient through the process. It was just an after the fact. You know, they wouldn't change the process, but we would predict what would happen 30 days in the future, which is fine, no problem. But that one, you get to some real moralistic, and that's the hardest one we've had, right? Because you're staring it down, can maybe, you know, add 10% in one project to your company's bottom line. But no, wasn't for us. It wasn't something that we wanted to do. So you get some really, really complex choices within that world. That was probably the hardest though. I mean, I'm going to the extreme there. We don't come across them very often. Mm. But yeah, COVID and I think people know what you have to do, but answering one question can create a whole load of side effects. It's hard. It's a really hard problem. I think closing the pubs at 10 o'clock is probably not the right answer though. I mean, that one is a little extreme, right? Because COVID doesn't come out till 10 p.m. I don't get it. Some of them are just ridiculous, right? Which I know is where you're heading. It's just nuts. I don't know. I don't understand.
Yeah, there is some strange stuff. Everywhere we see some strange stuff.
And some of it'll be, we want to keep people's spirits up. We want people to keep mentally sane, right? And pub culture is a big part of being in the UK, and it's a big part of life. And if you take that away, and you know I've got my virtual background on, but I'm trying to run a business from an office in a house. And it's really hard, and it's mentally draining, and it's mentally tough, and yeah, it's a really hard problem. But the data has the answers, and the scientists and the guys that are running the numbers, they know. Don't think they don't know, because they know. They absolutely know. They're not idiots, right? They're not. That's an easy answer to say they're idiots. And they know. They're just trying to manage. But if I do this, which there is no good choice, except leave the pubs open longer. It's always the best choice, clearly. Sorry, Nicky, I went way over, but surprise, surprise, right?
Well, we also started a little later with the introductions of 60 people. Any questions from you guys? I love your cases. I think also I also think that you have a really good way of. I mean, this is crazy complex, and you make it relatable.
Yeah, don't get wrapped up. I mean, enjoy the movies, right? Enjoy I love them, right? I love all the AI movies and the Westworld series are great, but be realistic. AI is phenomenal at answering very, very, very specific questions. Very specific questions.
And one at a time. I learned that from you.
You can broaden the question by stringing together multiple AIs. And in theory, I always question myself, because in theory, well, if I string enough together, I can answer any broad question I want. But it falls apart, right? Yeah. When you multiply accuracy by accuracy and you eventually run out of accuracy. That's compelling. But it answers very specific questions, and that's the reality of the world. And if you've got the right data, there's correlation in it. It's not witchcraft. It's not science. It's not something for tomorrow. It can happen today, and you can put it into practice.
Did you see a change of accuracy with computing power? Or you're doing this for 4 years now, right?
No, you're changing commercials, because you can always achieve the compute power. It's just expensive. So what you get is you get a lower, but compute power just gets cheaper, and as you know, gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. But the Moore's law and all that good stuff. But it just makes more problems more commercially viable, is probably a better way to put it.
Okay. Democratizes the technology.
Yeah. And you know, where we like to use that phrase as well, as you know, Nick, because when you talk about 14% of projects making it into production, the majority of that 14% happen in all the companies that you know about, that you would think. It's happening in Google, Netflix, Facebook, Amazon, right? And outside Uber, right? And outside of those, very few people are getting to be successful in AI. And that's what we take to our clients, right? We become, and not everyone's a software company. Everyone will be a software company eventually, of course, but you know, not everyone's a software company.
When it becomes GUI available and people can have access to technology, will it be something like AI to go, like from AI as a service to AI to go? You just chime in and enough data.
Hopefully when I'm retired.
Right, there will become new challenges for you. I really enjoyed that session.
Thanks, me too. Thank you for listening. If you know, I'm happy to take. But you share details afterwards, Nicky. So if anyone's got any questions, happy to answer them. But yeah, that's what we're doing here. Real world Silicon Valley.
Yes.
Not investor Silicon Valley. Well, I like these thumbs up. I need to get some of these for my Zoom.
I love the emotion lollipops. They're great.
I'm going to react. I'm going to do a hand clap for everybody around the table. There you go. I want to join in on this. I don't want to be the one left out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you.
Hi. We have one question. Sorry.
Yeah. Fine for me.
I would be very interested in how efficient is the possibility that the artificial intelligence is able to make good decisions. Is this measurable? That how is it comparable with the decisions people are making?
Sure. So that's what I talk about. Remember the control groups of understanding: are you going to leave? Are you going to not leave? Right? How accurate am I? And so. Yeah. Let me answer this in two ways, because I don't know if you meant to, but you created a very good conversation point. Yeah. One is, do you want to, excuse me, do you want to compare against how well people are doing it now? Or do you want to compare it against the objective right answer? Okay.
That's a point, because there's some things, because the discussion now came to the moral point, And is there any kind of morality programmable in the artificial intelligence?
No,
Because
no.
That's the thing. That's where the question is directing.
I'm probably a little bit out of my comfort zone, but my first answer, gut feeling, would be no. It works on data, and you're asking it a statistical question, and it's going to give you a statistical answer. The only place where you get the reverse morality, you'll have heard the famous Amazon story, right? Where they wanted to do CV checking on AI to remove bias, right? So they wanted to be purely statistical. Well, what they did was they took all the CVs from, or all the resumes from history and worked out, and they trained the model with who got in who. Well, they soon realized they just trained bias into the system, right?
Yes.
You just train bias into the system. So all you're doing is making a machine that makes the same decisions that you've always made.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed anything, right? You're automatically making the decisions, but you haven't changed the quality of the decisions that you're making. You're still trained the machine on this one was good, this one was bad, based on the internal biases of a human. So on the two cases I just talked about, on the chip manufacturer, it's completely objective, right? The crack is either there or it's not. Whereas on the Metal case that I showed you, what they're comparing against is, because they have no objective data to say, historically, did we make the right or wrong decision? Actually, I don't believe that's true, because we're working on that now. But right now, they believe they don't have a decision. They don't have the data that says, was this right or wrong? So what they're comparing against is, would my team of people, of experts, have made the same decision or a different decision, right? And that's hard for us, right? And we don't like that, because we can train it to make the same decisions as your human team, right? It's okay. But we think we can go better and train the machine to make the right decision, because these guys aren't making the right decision every time. So there is a difference, right? But the machine for Metal is currently trained on the benchmark is the human decision. Whereas the benchmark should be, what's the fastest way to resolve this problem for a customer? And they're different, right? And when you get to the laser focus of AI, that is a fundamentally different set of data and a fundamentally different model in order to achieve what you think or look like similar answers. They're not similar.
Yeah, interesting.
And I'm really wondering about the whole COVID online maps, which are, I don't know if they are the result of an artificial intelligence, but it is one way that we can image that what's going on in the world, and which is not visible for us as humans. And I asked myself if it is possible to create something like such an artificial intelligence system also for all these huge challenges we have globally now with garbage, clean water, clean energy, or something like that. Do you see any possibility to
I think you have to remember that AI doesn't present data. AI makes decisions, right? So that map, unless they're extrapolating the map or trying to make, understand from a small set of data what a big set of data would look, that's data analytics, right? There's probably no AI. That's a presentation of data from that COVID. I don't know. I haven't seen the maps, but my guess would be, if you're overlaying a map on how many cases are in which place, there's no decision being made, right? That's just facts of what we know, right? There's no AI involved in presenting that data. If the bit for the COVID of where I see you could use artificial intelligence models is to say, well, what would happen if I did this, right? And you can probably start to model, but again, it's likely to be data analytics and modeling that would create that answer. Maybe some AI in there, but you're trying to predict the future. So you could take some small set of data, and that's what we did with not the project that I said we did with, that we didn't do with the healthcare, the pharmaceutical guys, but we took some data and said, what's going to happen in the future? So looking at the past, what's going to happen in the future, forecasting, right? How do we do time series forecasting? You can do that with AI, and they're probably doing a lot of that with COVID. But if you're just presenting data, there's no AI, that's just fact, right? Just fact that's been visualized in some way.
Mhm.
So always think about AI is about making decision or prediction.
Chris, you've probably heard that the one thing that really scares Bill Gates and Elon Musk is AI.
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
we be?
Depends what you fear at night. I don't know. That's a personal decision whether you want to fear it or not. I think interesting as coming from the guys that push most AI into the world. That's a super interesting one. I don't know. I enjoy it, right? It makes my life better. I love Tesla, right? I love their cars. Maybe not their build quality, as everyone complains. I get that, but you know, they're pushing the boundaries on what's possible. They're changing marketplaces. They're changing people's thoughts. They're changing emissions, right? There would no, you know. Should we fear AI? I don't. But some people may. I don't fear it at all. I think there's one aspect that's quite interesting, which is most people in the world work in roles where they're doing, right? They're doing things, and the pyramid gets smaller and smaller. The triangle gets smaller and smaller as those that are paid to think, right? And this is where the fear factor comes in, because I keep talking about AI doesn't take away people's jobs. It's not quite true, right? As you know, it's not quite true. But at the bottom of the pyramid, it's automation that takes these roles, right? We're pretty familiar with that. We know that, right? Factory working, building cars with robots, right? Automation takes away. What AI does, it starts to think, right? And it starts to come up the chain of, oh, it's all right to take these jobs away, but hold on, I'm in a different, I'm different, right? I'm white collar, right? You can't take my job. Whoa, hold on. That's where the fear, and that's not fair, right? That's not equal. That's not right. I don't subscribe to that, right? That's a different piece. But no, I don't fear AI. I don't think it's going to come take over the world or
At least we don't have to.
Not in that way, not in a Hollywood way. I think the impacts on the economy could be fearful. I think that could have an impact. I think that could happen, right?
I'd fear it on November 3rd.
I think I sleep at night. I always think about the whole, you know, the loom and all the industrial revolution that everybody feared, and it feels a bit similar to that, right? It feels and then we adapt, and we're incredible species of people, right? The human race in terms of its adaptation and capability. So no, I don't fear it. But I'm not saying you shouldn't. I don't. Very personal decision, I think.
Chris, thank you so much for your time. I'll connect you all. This is an invitation to take the conversation from here. Also, maybe challenge Chris towards something where what he's really good at can solve problems or give answers to your questions in your job environment, in your companies, your thoughts. The session is recorded, so if you've missed parts, you can go back and revisit it. I'm going to separate talk with the Q&A, so it's not a 1 hour, 90 minutes recording that you have to go all through to come to that point that's ready for you. I really enjoyed it a lot. As usual, I think this is amazing. I also see the development of your projects, how it's moving on.
Even stuck in our house, we can still move on. It's amazing, isn't it? The resilience of the human.
Yeah. I need the AI to bridge to kind of give me a voice again. To kind of the AI knows what I'm saying next. So
you have a recovery time, or you think it's going to be long term?
It might stay forever. It might disappear or go back to normal after a year, and everything in between.
Wow. Well, good luck with that, Nikki.
We'll see. We'll see.
Guys, it was lovely to talk to you. I know it's super late in Europe. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, guys. Speak soon. Bye, Nikki.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That was really good.
Cheers, Marcus. Take care in Wimbledon.
Thank you.